Hello, you guys. Welcome to another Editing with Eden. I'm so excited to have you here because we are editing just the most stunning wedding that I second shot in Guatemala last year. I second shot for Deirdre Alston, and this wedding was actually featured in Brides, which is incredibly exciting. So I'm excited to finally work my way through some of my favorite second shot images. I'm pretty sure I did not sync my camera times, so we're gonna be hopping all over, which is fun, but I actually love second shooting, you guys. Like, I really do think photographers should prioritize second shooting more because you get the opportunity to like story tell and pay attention to the couple and the story of the day with way less pressure, which is really exciting. And so second shot images always end up being like some of my favorites and teach me a lot about how I want to approach an actual wedding day. So I'm thinking for this gallery, we're going to work with the creamy presets. So let's go ahead and start here. We'll just apply this automatically. I know we're probably going to need to bring down the contrast a little. We're going to fix the temperature on this. Let's actually do the drag and drop here. I'm going to raise the exposure, maybe bring down the highlights just a little. Perfect. Getting ready photos too, though, I'm never against just plopping them in black and white because I actually think they're like stunning in black and white. I love getting ready images in black and white, and so I love the like lower contrast black and white on this image. Here we have the couple's like custom perfume and cologne, which is so cool. So let's go ahead and put creamy harsh light on it. I'm going to go ahead and fix the tint because it was a little too high. We'll bring down the temperature just a hair, and I'm going to just bring up the luminance on this, and then we're good to go. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. We can go ahead and delete that duplicate. That looks like an exact duplicate. If you wanted to bring in more of the yellows, you can obviously raise the yellow saturation there. And if we wanted, we could bring in a little bit of blue slash usually around like 5100 is like daylight. So if we wanted to bring in some more of those blues, go ahead and bring it down to like 5200. Here we have another getting ready photo. Let me go ahead and just reorganize that where he's supposed to be. Same thing. We can do creamy, lower the contrast, fix the temperature a bit here, and then bring up the exposure. If this was like an actual wedding I was delivering, this is probably where I would have that sit, but I'm not. I'm a second shooter, so I'm just going to put it in black and white because I think it's prettier. Then we have this, and we're going to come in for a close-up, and now we can just paste what we have here. Perfect. Like this one a little bit more. I think we have accidentally copied, yep, the crop, which I don't want. So we're going to delete this one because it's fairly similar to the next. We'll paste this, raise the exposure, probably to about there. I also think I'm going to bring up the blacks a little, and then I'm going to crop this in a little bit tighter. So we have before, after, and then we also have this image in black and white because I'm obsessed with it in black and white. And I shot these all on my extension tube that I have, which is linked for you guys in my Amazon shop. It's amazing because then you don't have to buy a like $3,000 macro lens. You can just literally put an extension tube in between your camera and your favorite lens. So it's one of my favorite things that I have in my toolbox. Go ahead and paste on here. And I think because I want this like slightly underexposed, I'm also going to bring the blacks up to just kind of like lessen that contrast. I kind of really like this a little bit more underexposed and filmy looking. We'll come here to some greens and we'll go ahead and put creamy harsh light on it. This is my favorite thing about the True to Color pack, you guys, is that like, obviously this is a wedding I second shot. So it's like, I don't want to spend 10,000 years editing this wedding. Like I want to get this on the blog. I want to get you guys this video, but like, I'm not delivering this gallery. So I want this to be a quicker edit. And that's one of my favorite things about the creamy True to Color presets is that like they are borderline one click for a lot of situations. Like this, done, perfect. We can come here. I don't think this is a raw, but I don't remember when I was playing with these what presets I was using. So we're gonna go ahead and like put the harsh light, the creamy preset on here. She's done now. Same thing here, creamy harsh light, perfect, one click. Creamy harsh light, one click. Slay. Okay, we're gonna go ahead. Let's try creamy harsh light on this photo of Nico. I'm gonna go ahead and bring the temperature down. We'll bring exposure up. I'm gonna go ahead and bring the highlights up a little. Let's see what regular creamy would look like on this. I think maybe let's go regular, but just bring down the contrast. I'm going to go ahead and bring down that temperature a little bit, just fix some of the lines we have going here. And now that one is done. Let's go ahead and put creamy on this. We're going to bring down the contrast and let's fix this white balance, bring down the highlights, up the exposure. I'm going to bring down contrast a little bit more just since we were in like pretty interesting lighting situation. There was a window right above us, but we were kind of in an orange room. So I'm going to just fix the temperature. I think tint more like 4. I don't want it like a full 5 up, but that's where I would stick that. I love this image in black and white, but we could also copy this, see what that looks like. Again, you can always just bring the contrast down, or we could even like raise the blacks a little if we wanted a little bit more detail, but I actually really did like this in black and white. So we're gonna go back to that. Here's a really fun shot that I personally love, but can be an editing nightmare slash used to be something that would really freak me out. So you have a couple options with an image like this. We can either keep kind of the contrast between the shadows and the highlights by putting on like creamy harsh light, keeping this in the shadows. But what I would probably do is do creamy split light. And so the split light preset is built for lighting situations where some things are in harsh light and some things are in shadows. So what I would want to do is probably bring up the tint a little because it is casting a little bit green. And then I would just bring up the exposure a little. I'm okay with this being a hair overexposed. And then I'm going to bring down the shadows, I think, because I do like the idea of it being clear that this was in the shadows. We'll go there. I'm going to actually bring up the tint two more times, I think. And I love like this final image. This is also an image that I think like a lower black and white would be stunning on like that. And you could bring down the highlights. Yum. But I'm really happy with this color grade. This is one that I like that everything is dark other than the shoes. So I'm just going to do creamy harsh light, bring the highlights all the way up, go ahead and correct that temperature, maybe raise the exposure just a hair. And then I'm going to go ahead and crop in because I want this like entirely to be focused on the shoes. Here we have a ring shot, again, taken with the macro lens extender. I'm going to go ahead and one click this. Let's bring the highlights up, bring that down. And then the ring was blue. So I want to make sure we don't keep the temperature too high because it's going to counteract that. And then we're going to go ahead, crop in just a little. And there we have it. That was her, I think like her grandmother's ring, which is so cute. Here we're going to go ahead and put creamy on. Let's lower the contrast for sure. And then we're going to adjust the temperature, bring this up a hair, and that's that on that. Perfect. Okay, let's come here. We'll do creamy. I'm going to lower the contrast as well. And this is one we're going to have to play around with the tint a bit because she was getting so green casted. And then we'll raise the exposure. I think maybe let's bring the temperature up a hair. And one thing that we could do here is just like bring the oranges down. Stop. I'm going to go ahead and crop this, copy those settings. We'll come right here, paste. I'm going to go ahead and bring down the highlights and maybe even just up the blacks just a hair. Let's see if I copy that, what that looks like here. I like that better. Perfect. Let's come here to the bridal first look. We're going to go ahead and put creamy. Actually, let's see what creamy split light looks like on this. I'm going to bring down the shadows because I don't want it to look too HDR-ish. We're going to color correct this temperature, but let's bring this up and see what that looks like. I actually kind of want to introduce, let's see, I'm trying to decide if we need to like lower the oranges. And then because we have the highlights so low, what I'm going to do is bring down the texture a little bit further to just like soften up these details. Love, that's perfect. And then we'll come here. I think we can actually copy this, paste this here. I'm gonna warm it up just a hair, bring up this exposure, and maybe just bring the blacks down a little bit because I don't mind this one being a little bit more contrasted. And then we're just going to hurry and delete any duplicates because apparently I imported that one like 5 times. Now we're going to do creamy harsh light. Let's bounce between the raw. Honestly, perfect. Done. Let's go ahead and put creamy here. We're going to go ahead and put the contrast pretty low because this lighting was a little bit funky. This is an image that, again, I probably would put in black and white because I think it's a lot more powerful. But now we've made our way outside. So let's go ahead and put the creamy on. Let's raise this exposure. This is one where, like, because they were in deep shadow, we kind of had a lot of blues. So we might want to do blue hour or blue hour less contrast. I'm kind of thinking less contrast, but let's raise the whites so we don't lose too much contrast. But that way we kind of get rid of that, like, overall really blue tone. Copy that. Here, let's paste this and see how that looks on Nico. Don't necessarily love it. So we'll go ahead and put just the creamy on. I'm going to lower exposure. We're going to lower the highlights, fix this temperature. I'm going to go ahead and bring the contrast down on this one. And this is probably where I would end up with this shot. This is such a cute photo of Nico. I love it. Let's go ahead and bring up the highlights and down the exposure because, again, I don't want it looking like too HDR-ish. And then I think for this one, I don't want to cool it down more, but I want slightly less orange. So we're just going to bring down the orange saturation a stop. And then I'm going to crop this in. Perfect. Let's go ahead and come here. This is one of the shots we took outside. I'm going to go in with harsh light and let's see what that's looking like. I'm going to go ahead and raise exposure, fix this temperature a little bit. Maybe let's raise the tint. No, I feel good about that one. Let's go ahead and bring the highlights down just a hair, and that one is good to go. Now we're moving into photos at the ceremony site, which I'm really excited for, and we have a few different options. So one, we can do harsh light and kind of keep like this moodier look, but we also can go in with like the creamy split light to bring in some more detail. I'm personally going to go, I think, with split light just to get in a little bit more detail, and I'm going to lower the temperature, raise the exposure. And the beauty again of the split light preset is that like we get these details in the highlights but also the shadow. So I'm going to go ahead, let's straighten this out, copy, and we're going to start making our way through these images. This one's a little overexposed, so let's go ahead and bring down the exposure. And I think what we're going to do is maybe just bring up the shadows a little, which means I want to come in here and counteract by just lowering the texture. I also want to make sure that the sky is really bright personally, so I'm going to bring down the blue luminance, raise the saturation just a hair. Let's go ahead and straighten this out. Stunning. And then we should be able to just copy and paste this across the board. Now we're going to get all of the detail throughout the ceremony site, as well as still like keeping that beautiful open sky look so that people know, you know, what we were looking at. And we're just going to go ahead and copy and paste these all throughout here. This one we can probably like raise a little bit. Same with this. And this is where we can start probably like lowering the shadows a little if we want, or even like lowering the blacks to just bring in a little bit more contrast. Copy this, paste. Go ahead and straighten this, and let's actually center her right there. We're going to go ahead and bring the shadows and the blacks up a little bit again, and then lower that exposure so that we don't lose that. Same thing here where we really want the beauty of this venue. Okay, so obviously this one we ended up in like a different lighting situation. So I'm going to play around a little bit here. I think we're going to have to lower the exposure a little. Let's look into maybe even bringing up these shadows. We do have a creamy extreme split, which brings in some warmth and also really gives you the ability to see both the highlights and the shadows, which that might be what we need here since the sky was in such a different white balance than down here on the ground. I think this is probably where I would end up with this. And maybe just raising the contrast like a hair so that we don't lose too much of this. Let's go ahead and copy this one, see what this looks like. Jump scare, no. We're going to go to creamy harsh light because I actually am okay with just the groomsmen being like what's in the light here. Let's go ahead and straighten this. Copy, paste this here as well for some storytelling shots. I'm going to crop this in. I'm here for a photo of the venue. Paste. I'm going to go ahead and lower contrast again on this one and just raise the tint a little. And then we come here to photos of the bride. I'm going to raise the tint. Let's raise the exposure. But again, this is basically just a one click. That's the harsh light preset. So let's come right here, paste, paste. Since it's a similar lighting situation, we can go ahead and lower this exposure, straighten out this image. I'm gonna go ahead and copy, and we are just gonna paste our way through these. All right, like I said, I obviously did not sync my camera time, so we are back on the roof for the first look. We're gonna go ahead and put creamy harsh light on here. Let's go ahead and raise this exposure. The only thing I'm gonna do is lower my contrast a little bit more, and boom, we're literally done. Creamy is gonna go right here. Let's lower the contrast, fix this temperature, because I was shooting pretty warm this day. Deirdre shoots a bit warmer, so I shot a bit warmer than I usually do to make sure that I was matching her style. We're going to straighten out this image, crop in the bars. I don't want to lose their feet though, which means we are going to have to edit this little salida sign. We're going to do the clone brush, and we're going to do this like slowly but surely, since there's not like a lot of space that we can grab this stone texture from. So let's try here first. And now let's go like this. And we're just going to keep like dragging this stone texture over. The only thing is, on that first brush, I think the feathering is too, there we go. Okay, now let's keep going. And we're just going to keep pulling from like basically wherever we can, which, let me zoom out and see if there's not really like any other stone that's exposed other than this part. So we're probably going to have to make some like minor adjustments once we get a little bit closer in there. Let's go ahead and grab this. What I'm going to do really quick though is grab this little section, since it's looking like too repetitive with the stone texture, and try to grab something like slightly different so that it doesn't look too repetitive and like we've just copied and pasted all right next to each other, which is what we 100% have done, but people don't need to know that. One of my favorite things is to kind of bounce between the heel and the clone brush, because that way it can kind of mask and blend things as it sees fit once we've like worked on getting the green sign gone. So where did this one come from? Let's see if we can come up here. Maybe even down here to grab some of this light. And then we're going to do the same thing again. Let's go ahead and come up here. And basically what we need to find is a strand of light that's doing a similar thing to this one. So we could go like this. Let's zoom out, see if that's something anyone would ever notice. And now let's go like this. Okay. This looks good as far as the exit sign goes, but what we need to now focus on is making it so it doesn't look so redundant. Because like right now it does look like someone just copied and pasted the same thing over and over again. So now we're going to take the healing brush, now that it doesn't have any of that green to pull from, and we're just going to like move around and just like copy. Like that part can look a little repetitive because we grabbed from it so many times. So I'm like, let's come further up in here, maybe grab some of that texture. Let's come down in here, try to get rid of that little brown mark that we grabbed from so many times, and see if we can grab something like further up here, or even like a mix of this. Let's see if that helped. Let's zoom out now. Okay, that already looks so much better. You probably would never know. Okay, so now let's go ahead. Let's keep on keeping on, and we're gonna go ahead and let's just lower this temperature a hair more. I'm gonna bring the tint down to like 9, and now we've taken this image from here to here. We love. Okay, now we're gonna come here. Let's go ahead and paste again. We'll raise this exposure. We have another first look image. Let me go ahead and drag her back here. We will copy from this one, paste here, lower the exposure, lower the contrast, and then let's come back in here, here, here. Great. Let's go ahead and paste from what we used here. I'm thinking though, let's put creamy on it. It's a little too contrasty, but if we lower the contrast to 0, bring the exposure down, and just correct that temperature a little, I'm going to bring down the tint to 5. We're pretty much good to go there. And then we will come in here, because couldn't tell you why they decided scaffolding was the move this day, but apparently it was. And you know, we win some, we lose some. And we're just going to get rid of this scaffolding really quickly. You can even come in here and let's just zoom in even further so it's easier to grab. Okay, we're going to come in here with this and we are going to be even more careful. And we're just going to go down like that and then across, and then we can be less careful in between. We're going to go across. And I don't know how to stress this enough, but if you are a luxury wedding photographer of any kind, please take the time to do this. I will say I think it's a little quicker in Photoshop, but there's also something so annoying about having to open between Photoshop and Lightroom 24/7. So you kind of like pick your poison on that one. Let's go ahead and drag this down because it just looks like it's a little dark. Let's go ahead and check that. And then what we're going to do here is just zoom in a little bit more, and then we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to take a little tiny brush. Something you can also do in situations like this that I think is smart is just like tell your clients like, "Hey, there was scaffolding. I edited a few for you. If there's any other photos that you're like, I wanted to print this one or anything like that, like please let me know and I can edit those." Like you don't have to do all of them if there's like 10 billion. So this is where I'd leave this image. Now that I've zoomed out, I think the only thing I would maybe do different is I could see myself doing blue hour less contrast just so that it had slightly more color, and then just like lowering the temperature a hair to yeah, just add a little bit more warmth in since they were in some shadows. I'm actually probably going to go with that. And then we can come over here. This is the bride's first look with her dad. I'm going to remove this one because this one's so sweet. We're going to go ahead and put creamy on it. We're going to lower the contrast, and let's go ahead and bring this tint down. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up right here. I actually think we're going to do somewhat low contrast on this one. And let's actually warm it up a little because the bride's skin is looking a little green. And then we're going to raise that tint. Let's straighten the image. This is another situation, right, where like you could very easily just go whoop, close that out and change it to a Band-Aid. And it would very easily fix that. Now we are in ceremony time. What we're going to do is let's go ahead and reset what we were doing, which was creamy split light. And we're going to bring the temperature down because it's looking pretty warm. And then we're going to bring the shadows up even more so. And we're going to bring the whites down a hair. And then we're going to bring the texture down to compensate for the fact that like we've had to raise the shadows so much. So let's look at what that's looking like. Let's see what extreme split looks like because it is looking like we might be working with an extreme split situation. I don't think I love it. All right, we're going to go back to regular split light and let's raise those shadows, bring down the whites, bring down the texture. And I think we're going to go for like a 51 since that is typically daylight. We're going to go ahead and raise this exposure a little here and straighten this out. I am going to bring down the tint because it is looking a little magenta to 6. And now we are rocking and rolling to get moving. For shots like this that are completely in one light, what I would do is just bring the shadows down to 0 and bring the blacks down a little bit more and then raise the exposure because they do like a little bit more contrast. Straighten that out. I'm here. Go ahead and paste. We're going to need to bring down that exposure. We might even go down a little bit more. The light was moving pretty quickly during this ceremony because we were kind of like nearing sunset times, which is going to change not only the like exposure but the white balance. So let's straighten this out. Let's bring up the temperature just a hair. I'm going to bring up the shadows, I think. Let's see here. But I think I'm going to bump the contrast because I don't want it to look too dull. And then we're going to bring down the orange saturation. I think let's bring the yellows up a hair. And then I think what I'm going to do is just lower the blues a hair, raise the saturation. Okay, I feel good about that. We're going to copy that, paste. Let's go ahead and raise the exposure a little. I'm going to straighten this out. And then this is another situation of the other team that we were working with just like wouldn't talk to us and would not stay out of our shots. So this is going to be another great example on how to correct things like this in Lightroom because again, this is a second shooting job for me. So I don't really want to like open Lightroom and or open Photoshop and do like a shit ton of editing. Let's see where we can grab onto. We might have to do the top half of him and then the lower half of him. So let's go ahead and do top half first and grab the wall. There we go. What does that look like if we do like bring the feathering extreme? I just want to see like how harsh of a line we can make that. Like I don't want them to intuitively try to grab pieces. Let's look at what this looks like. Maybe over here. I just feel like if we grab that bar right there, it's not going to look very good. Let's do this and let's feather a hair. And then what we're going to do is now grab this section of him. And I think same thing, because I don't think we're going to be able to pull from where, actually, let's see. Oh, big win. We have this side over here. We might need to just come out a hair. This is one of my favorite things. Here he goes. All right, now we're gonna come over here. Let's go ahead and grab this right here. Let's lower this. I actually think we might be able to use the heel brush now because there won't be like more to pull from. Let's look at what this is looking like. Slay. You would never know. Goodbye to the videographer. This one, however, is going to be an absolute nightmare. So let's get started. Let's start with the clone tool. And I think what I'm going to do, let's see, do we even have, all right, we don't even have another ledge to pull from. So this is going to be really interesting. We're going to go ahead and get rid of his feet first. So let's come in here. And we're going to pull from over here. We might even have to do 1 foot at a time. Okay, let's start here. We're going to get rid of that. Let's go ahead and make that a healing moment. Great. Now we're going to come in here, heal this. Perfect. Okay, now we should be able to just grab this from right here. Okay, goodbye. His feet are gone. Slay. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the head. And just do a full circle. Let's come right here. Perfect. Okay, we're getting there. We're gonna grab this. And then let's go ahead and come right here. We are like so close. Maybe here would be better. Perfect. Right there. Okay. I'm getting excited. We're getting excited now. Let's go ahead and grab his torso. And I think again, we'll just pull kind of from this like somewhat similar brick situation. And then what we're gonna have to do is grab this part and we're gonna pull her from up here, I'm thinking. Oh yeah, big slay. This is also at this point kind of a pride thing for me because this is a really hard one, but I'm like, we're doing this. I can't make that more clear. This will be happening. Okay, this is the part that I am a little nervy about. We might just have to make this wall look different than it is, and that just might be the reality of the situation that we're finding ourselves in. So I'm just trying to even these out. We're gonna go there, and I think what we're gonna have to do is just make this wall completely extend out. Yeah, that's what we're gonna have to do. There was an entryway here, but we're gonna pretend that there wasn't. The one thing is that we're gonna have to fix the flames later, but that's okay. Easy fix. Let's go ahead and grab that. And then let's come up. Now we're gonna go like this. Let's go ahead and we might need to grab it from over here. Let's see. Yeah, that's probably gonna be our best bet. And then what we're gonna do is zoom in because what I want is to just fix this little teeny black bar. So we're going to go along here and just make sure that we have the black bar. And let's go ahead and get rid of that bonus flame. Let's grab some of the brick again. And then let's go ahead and let's get rid of this tripod. I think we can do the healing brush for these two. Let's just make sure that we sub that stone. Let's fix this tripod. Wow. There we go. If you blew this up on a giant wall and someone was looking for it, yeah, maybe you would see it, but look at this. Beautiful. I cannot. Okay. Well, this is the one shot we will be doing of that. Let's paste this one. And we're just going to need to warm this up and bring up tint a hair. Let's straighten it. And I think what we're going to do, I want this image on Pinterest. So this is actually why we're doing this. We're going to bring the shadows down, bring up the exposure, maybe even bring blacks down a little to introduce a little bit more contrast. There we go, golden. We've got the flowers. Let's go ahead and copy from this previous shot, paste. Friendly reminder to always sync your camera times, otherwise you could end up like this. All right, we're gonna keep pasting onto the details here. Now we're entering ceremony again. So let me go ahead. Let's copy this one. Let's come here. Let's paste. Exposure up. Let's go ahead and bring it right here. We're going to crop. I believe that might actually be Deirdre getting the processional. We're going to go ahead and crop in right here. And let's bring the exposure down a hair. It's looking a little warm and a little magenta. Again, the light was changing really quickly. Let's bring this down. And I'm going to go ahead and bring the contrast down. And then we'll go ahead and paste this one too. That's so cute with the bride's arm in the bottom. And then I got these slow shutter shots, which was fun. I always hate, honestly, photographing the processional. And so I wanted to try something new this time. And this was it. And I love how it turned out. Again, we have another team member here. We're just going to go in here, grab him, and hopefully have an easy clone with one of these chairs. JK, maybe we won't be having an easy clone. We're having an easy clone right there. And then let's go ahead and grab this again, see if we can just grab some stones. And then we're just going to have to come in here, go over this part. And let's grab that from here, hopefully. And then we're going to get rid of this by grabbing I will never understand when like Lightroom or Photoshop just decides to like go haywire and pull from like a completely insane location. Okay, the next thing we need is just to get this out right here. Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom out. Great, we've gone from this to this. Let's bring shadows down, exposure up, and so we've gone from this to this. Over here, we've got some more details that again we're gonna do. Wow, that was crazy. Let's do creamy on this. I don't think we need to do split light, or we can even do harsh light. There we go, and just raise the exposure. Same here. Let's go ahead and put harsh light on it. Let's actually just copy this, paste it over here, raise the exposure on this side. Here they come out for the processional, and we're going to go ahead and raise the exposure, decrease the temperature. Let's go ahead and raise the exposure here more. We're going to copy this. Obviously, the exposure is going to get janky because they were like walking outside, but this can give us like a jumping off point. We're going to bring exposure down. Let's bring tint down a little. I don't know why I got so maroon there for a second. We're going to raise exposure. I think we want this a little bit. Yeah, feels right. We'll come here to them walking to their cocktail hour. I'm going to go ahead and bring contrast up, bring exposure down. We're going to do temperature control on this one. Paste. We're going to have to just change the exposure, and let's go ahead and bring the tint up a hair. And let's bring highlights down a little. There we go. Now we're going to do the same thing, just paste right here. I think what we'll do is bring the blacks up a little to just make that contrast a little less harsh. And I'm going to raise the temperature so we don't lose that warmth and the tint. And then these should be good to paste just kind of across the board right here. Same thing here. All right, this is where they were coming into their cocktail hour. What's great is we just are able to copy and paste from that last section. I'm going to get the table out of there, copy this, and then we should just be able to make some minor exposure adjustments and just copy and paste through here. And here's from earlier where the bride exited out of this adorable little cart. So we're going to go ahead and put harsh light on there. Keep pasting. For the most part, if you're using... Wow, we really went far back there. All right, now we're getting into some detail photos. Let's go ahead and do split light because again, we are still working with some semblance of split light. I think what we'll do though is bring the shadows all the way down, and let's go ahead and correct this white balance. Actually, no, we might need a little bit of the shadows and a little bit of the highlights down. Loving this though. Okay, yeah, let's bring the whites up, blacks down, and lower contrast. Okay, it like wasn't looking poppy enough for me. So let's go here, let's copy, and then we are just gonna paste as we come through here. Gorgeous venue. It was absolutely insane, as you guys can see. It is such a stunning venue in Antigua. All right, we're just gonna keep pasting along here. Stunning. Here we have this photo of the bride and groom. I'm gonna go ahead and do black and white low contrast on that one just because I'm kind of obsessed with the way that it photographed in this area of the venue. Are you kidding? Yum. I'm gonna go ahead and crop that a hair. All right, we're back into the detail photos again. Friendly reminder to sync your freaking camera times because really hate myself for this one. We're going to go ahead and bring the shadows down to 0 and the highlights a little bit closer to 0. We're going to just keep pasting, making any exposure adjustments as necessary. This is where it started to get pretty cool and warm. So we're going to go ahead and bring the temperature back up, bring the tint up, and I'm going to lower the highlights a hair and raise the blacks to get some details without making it look HDR-ish. Let's go ahead and copy that, and then we can start pasting. We'll make some exposure tweaks as necessary. And we are just going to blow through this section. Obviously, the ceremony site took a decent amount of time with those Photoshop jobs. Let's go ahead and keep pasting. All right, we're going to just keep chugging along. All right, we've made it back to some group portraits. We're going to go ahead and bring this exposure down. I'm going to go ahead and bring the highlights up and the contrast up a little, lower the white balance because it's a little too warm. Raise that exposure one more time. Let's go ahead and copy paste here. This one looks a little cool. Let's raise that temperature and maybe raise the tint a little. And I think the contrast. Let's do like -10. And then I'm just going to go ahead and Photoshop out whoever's little head that was. Right there. Looks great. We can even move this up a little. Perfect. And then let's keep on going. Let's paste here. Actually, I think I'm going to want that one in black and white. Yep. Yum. Let's paste onto this one, which I clearly had previously edited. All right, it's looking pretty cool. So let's go ahead and raise that temperature all the way back up. And we're going to lower the highlights, not the shadows. Let's do blacks and raise those a hair. And then that way we can come in here, raise the exposure. Let's copy that. This is when the couple is taking family photos. I'm actually going to put this in black and white. Right, we have actually edited a lot of these portraits in other places, so I'm going to skip them for now, and take you guys into the reception photos because I'm always a big fan of these. Let's go ahead and start when we started with flash photography. One of my favorite things is we have built this creamy reception preset that's like a little bit more matted, and I feel like it just gives off that fun flash look. So usually I'll apply that, and then I will come down into grain, and I'm just going to add a lot of grain. That's kind of my mood of choice when it comes to these types of images because I want them to feel basically like I took them on a disposable. So what I'm going to do is copy all of these flash photos. I'm going to go ahead and synchronize, and hopefully all I'll have to do is really fix these weren't taken with flash, so these are going to look crazy. Let's go ahead and edit these, and then we'll keep on chugging along. But what we're going to do is just add the creamy preset. We're going to go ahead and fix this tint a little here. We're going to bring it down significantly, keep that warmth. And then probably what we're actually going to do on this is just lower the vibrance overall. And then let's bring this temperature up a hair, bring up exposure. And this is what I would do with this. So let's go ahead and copy this, paste. We nearly made those look so scary. And then all we'll have to do is these exposure checks, paste, adjust exposure, paste, adjust exposure. Are you guys sick of hearing me yet? All right, now we're back in the flash photos. This really should be all that we have to do is just like fix the exposure as we go along. So maybe a temperature and tint check if you need to, but for the most part, it's probably just going to be an exposure issue. So we can come like here. I think I actually want that one to feel pretty overexposed. Let's fix this one. So fun. Again, this is like, we love an espresso martini moment. This is just like how I get it to feel like a like I took it on a 35 millimeter like disposable, is this preset. I literally love it. It's just basically the creamy preset with like some very specific tweaks to make it more matte. So it's still gonna match the rest of your gallery if you're using the creamy preset while still giving you like this 35 millimeter film look, which I just like love. And it's gonna be a lot cheaper for your pocketbooks than shooting everything on film. So yeah, we're just gonna go through here. We're gonna make some exposure changes. I'm also not against doing like a high contrast black and white on dance floor images, like something like this. I think it's so fun to have them in black and white. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do for each of these images. You just go through, make all of these exposure checks. We can even come back here to where they had their cutie little firework exit. It wasn't really an exit, I guess. Their firework moment. Let's go ahead and copy those, paste. We'll raise the exposure here. We probably could cool this down just a hair. Paste that right here. We're going to go ahead and lower exposure a bit. And one of the things that we could do if we wanted is just like put this here and grab more fireworks and turn it into a clone. And this is something where you could also go into Photoshop and like grab a bunch more from other images so it doesn't look like the same firework over and over again. So that is everything for you guys. We will link the presets for you below, but as you can see, this makes everything so much easier. A click, one click. For most lighting situations, obviously we took a little bit more time to Photoshop basically in here, but I hope that can help you as you approach your wedding season editing workflow. You can grab the presets below and we will see you next time.